I used to think I knew every part of him. But when I opened that email, the one I wasn't supposed to see, I realized I'd only ever known half of the man I married. I used to love the quiet. The stillness of the house after a long day, the steady hum of life slowing down as the world settled into night. But now, the silence felt different, heavier. It pressed against my chest like a weight I couldn't quite shake. It was a Wednesday evening, one of those nights where the clock seemed to tick slower. Daniel was in the shower, and I was curled up on the couch, flipping through emails on my phone. I wasn't snooping. I never did. But his laptop was open on the coffee table, the screen glowing softly, the cursor blinking in an open inbox. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. A name I didn't recognize. Jonathan West. At first, I thought it was a client. Daniel's job in corporate consulting often brought him into contact with people I'd never heard of. But the subject line caught my eye. Reservation confirmed, Thursday, 7 p.m. Table for 2. I felt my breath catch. Thursday. He told me he was working late Thursday. A cold chill slid down my spine as I clicked on the message, my heart pounding in my ears. The email was brief, professional, but it didn't belong in Daniel's inbox. It was a confirmation for a reservation at Le Jardin, a place we hadn't been to in years. Table for 2. My fingers trembled as I closed the email and shut the laptop. I told myself it was a mistake. A misunderstanding. Maybe he was planning a surprise. Maybe this had nothing to do with me. But doubt had a way of whispering louder than reason. The little things I tried to ignore, I tried to forget about it. I told myself it was nothing. But once doubt takes root, it doesn't let go. Little things began to shift. He was always on his phone. Texts that made him smile, but he never shared. Late-night calls that he took in the other room, his voice low and muffled through the walls. Just work stuff, he'd say when I asked. I believed him. I had to. But there were other signs. The cologne. It wasn't his usual scent. It clung to his shirts, subtle but foreign. A little too bold for him. His excuses became too perfect. Running late, client dinner. Meeting went long. Got tied up at the office. Each one slid through my fingers like sand, impossible to hold on to, leaving me grasping at air. The moment I should have trusted my instincts a week after that email, I noticed another message. This time, I wasn't looking. I was folding laundry when his phone lit up on the nightstand. A message from Jonathan West. My heart stopped. I stared at the screen, the preview of the message burning into my mind. Tomorrow's confirmed. Same place. The air in the room grew thick, suffocating. I shouldn't have touched it. But my hands moved on their own, picking up his phone, my pulse pounding in my ears. The text was short. Clean. Devoid of emotion. Tomorrow's confirmed. I put the phone down as if it burned me. The weight of denial. I didn't ask him. I couldn't. Because asking meant acknowledging what I already feared. Instead, I watched. I became an observer in my own marriage. His smiles felt forced. His kisses lingered too long, as though he was overcompensating. I told myself I was being paranoid. But when I lay beside him at night, his body warm and familiar, I couldn't shake the feeling that the man I loved was slipping further and further away, and I had no idea how to hold on. The breaking point comes quietly. It was a Thursday night. The night of the reservation. Daniel kissed me goodbye with that same easy smile, telling me not to wait up. Long night, he said. My stomach twisted into knots as I watched him walk out the door. But I didn't wait up. I followed him. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My mind screamed at me to turn back, to stop. But I couldn't. I parked a block away from Le Jardin, my heart pounding as I watched him enter. And then I saw her. Claire. Tall, poised, effortlessly beautiful. She greeted him with a kiss that wasn't hesitant, wasn't secret. It was familiar. My world tilted, the ground giving way beneath me. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Because somewhere deep inside me, I knew. This wasn't just about another woman. And I was going to find out exactly what Daniel was hiding. I told myself I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to look at his phone again. I wasn't going to dig. But the thing about doubt? It doesn't loosen its grip. Once it plants itself in your mind, it grows roots, twisting and tightening until you can't breathe. So, when Daniel was in the shower the next morning, water pounding against the tiles, steam clouding the glass. I picked up his phone. My fingers trembled, but the need to know was louder than my guilt. The password hadn't changed. A part of me wished it had. Because maybe if it had, I could have told myself I was wrong. The name again. Jonathan West. The name appeared in his messages again, tucked between work emails and calendar reminders. But this time, I didn't stop at the surface. I went deeper. A hidden folder. Encrypted emails. An alternate inbox I'd never seen before. I opened one of the messages, and what I read made my blood run cold. Subject: confirmed, funds received. From Jonathan West to Claire Mitchell. The transfer was successful. Offshore accounts secured. Phase 2 will be completed by the end of the month. I'll be in touch after the next meeting. My pulse pounded in my ears. Offshore accounts? Phase 2? What the hell is going on? My eyes darted across the screen, searching for answers. But the more I read, the less sense it made. Claire. That name again. The woman I saw at Le Jardin. Two versions of the same man. The Daniel I knew was organized, predictable. He thrived on routine. I could set my watch by his habits. But this Daniel, the one hiding behind fake names and secret emails, was someone else entirely. I scrolled further. Hotel reservations. Travel confirmations. Dinner dates. All booked under Jonathan West. My throat tightened. This wasn't just an affair. This was a double life. Confrontation, or not? I closed the phone, my hands shaking as I placed it back on the nightstand. When Daniel stepped out of the shower, towel wrapped low around his waist, he smiled at me like nothing had changed. "Morning, babe," he said, pressing a kiss to my forehead. I forced a smile, but my stomach twisted. "Morning." I watched him dress, watched him move around the room with the same practiced ease. But I couldn't unsee what I'd read. "Who are you, Daniel?" The lies start to unravel over the next few days. I couldn't stop watching him. Every text he sent. Every glance at his phone. Every moment he was somewhere else, even when he was sitting right next to me. He was slipping away. And the worst part? He didn't even realize I was pulling the threads of his lies, unraveling everything one secret at a time. The name that follows me, it was everywhere. Jonathan West. I saw it in his emails. In his encrypted chats. On credit card statements for purchases he never mentioned. And then, I heard it. A call he didn't expect me to hear. It was late. Daniel had been working late, or so he said. I was supposed to be asleep. But I wasn't. I heard him slip out of bed, his footsteps soft as he moved into the living room. Curiosity pulled me up. I followed, moving quietly, staying in the shadows. And that's when I heard it. "Yeah, it's Jonathan." My blood froze. His voice was low, controlled. But the name. Jonathan West. He was using it. "I'll handle the next transfer tomorrow," he murmured, his words barely above a whisper. "No loose ends." Loose ends. The words echoed in my head, sending a chill down my spine. The second woman, and then I heard her name. "Claire's handling the details. I'll check in after I meet her." My heart slammed against my ribs. Claire. The woman from the restaurant. The woman in the emails. I pressed myself against the wall, my mind spinning. My husband, and the stranger he's become. When Daniel finally ended the call and slipped back into bed beside me, I lay perfectly still. His breathing evened out. His arm draped over me like it always did. But it felt wrong. Because now I knew. I wasn't lying next to my husband. I was lying next to a stranger. But this isn't over. I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. Because whatever Daniel was involved in, it wasn't just cheating. It was something bigger. And if I was going to take him down, I needed to know everything. I didn't sleep that night. Even as Daniel's breathing grew steady beside me, I lay awake, my mind racing. I replayed the phone call over and over, dissecting every word. Jonathan. Claire's handling the details. No loose ends. The words echoed like a drumbeat in my ears, pounding until they merged with the sound of my own heartbeat. By morning, I had made a decision. I was going to find out who the hell my husband really was. The game of pretending I couldn't let him know I was onto him. So I played the part. I kissed him goodbye like I always did. I smiled when he told me he'd be home late again. "Another late meeting?" I asked, keeping my voice light, my eyes carefully guarded. Yeah, Daniel said, brushing his lips against mine. Don't wait up. I didn't. But I didn't stay home either. Following the trail, I followed him. It started small, watching where he went after work, taking note of unfamiliar routes and unplanned stops. But Daniel was careful. Too careful. His routine was a perfect mask. Office. Gym. Occasional dinner with clients. But then, one Thursday night, the same night I overheard his phone call, he deviated. Instead of heading to the office, he took a detour. Downtown. I followed, keeping my distance, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. The apartment across town he parked on a quiet street lined with luxury apartments. Not our neighborhood. Not even close. I watched as he got out of the car and walked toward a sleek, modern building. Penthouse suite. I stayed in the shadows, heart pounding as I saw him punch in a code at the entrance. The door buzzed open. My mind screamed at me to turn back. To leave. But I couldn't. Because whatever was on the other side of that door. I needed to see it. What I saw changed everything I didn't get in that night. But I came back the next day. I waited. Watched. And then I saw her. Claire. She walked out of the building like she belonged there, head held high, smile playing on her lips. She looked comfortable. As if this wasn't some illicit affair. As if she lived there. I felt the ground shift beneath me. My husband wasn't just cheating. He was building a life, a whole other life, with her. A different version of him. I waited until Claire was gone before I made my move. Getting into that building wasn't easy. But desperation makes you bold. I followed a delivery guy, slipping in behind him before the door shut. I didn't have a key to the penthouse. But Daniel's code? The one he used for everything? It worked. And what I found inside took my breath away. A life I never knew. The apartment was immaculate. Sleek, modern, everything perfectly in place. But it wasn't the decor that made my stomach twist. It was the pictures. Framed photos lined the shelves, pictures of Daniel and Claire, smiling at dinners, lounging on a beach, wrapped in each other's arms. And then I saw the worst one. A picture of us. But not from our wedding. Not from any moment I remembered. It was staged. Perfect. But fake. Proof of a life that didn't exist. My knees threatened to buckle. I stumbled deeper into the apartment, my mind reeling. Who the hell is this man? The man in two worlds. I checked the bedroom. His clothes were there. His cologne. His watch. Everything that should have been at home was here. He wasn't just visiting this place. He lived here. 2 sets of lives. 2 sets of routines. 2 versions of Daniel. Claire wasn't just a mistress. I found more than I bargained for. Hidden in a locked drawer, which took longer to crack than I'd like to admit, was a folder. Names. Dates. Transactions. Offshore accounts. Claire wasn't just a mistress. She was part of it. Whatever Daniel was involved in, Claire was in it with him. This wasn't about love. This was business. My husband and his empire. The more I read, the worse it got. Daniel wasn't just running a double life. He was running something bigger. Shell companies. Hidden assets. Money laundering. I was staring at the blueprint of a criminal empire. My chest tightened, the air thick with disbelief. How long? How long had he been building this without me noticing? The breaking point. I didn't leave immediately. I stood there for a long time, breathing in the scent of a life I never knew existed. A life I wasn't a part of. When I finally walked out, I left everything as I found it. But something inside me had snapped. Because now I knew. My husband wasn't just a liar. He was dangerous. But I wasn't going to run. Not yet. Because if I was going to take him down, I needed to know everything. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Claire. The woman who smiled at Daniel like she knew him better than I ever could. The woman who walked out of that apartment without a second thought, her heels clicking on the pavement like she owned the world. I hated her. But I needed her. Because if I was going to bring Daniel down, I had to go through her first. The decision I couldn't take back. It took me a week to build up the courage. 7 days of sleepless nights. 7 days of watching Daniel move through our life like nothing had changed. I played my part perfectly. I smiled when he smiled. I kissed him goodnight. I acted like the oblivious wife I used to be. But I wasn't that woman anymore. And when Daniel left for another meeting, I made my move. Tracking her down. Finding Claire wasn't hard. A woman like her doesn't live in the shadows. She thrived in plain sight, perfectly curated Instagram posts, charity galas, high-profile events. Always by his side. But I wasn't looking for her public persona. I was looking for the woman behind the mask. And I found her. The confrontation. It was a Friday afternoon when I finally approached her. I waited outside her favorite cafe, a chic little spot on the Upper West Side. She was sitting by the window, her latte untouched, her eyes glued to her phone. Probably texting Daniel. My hands were steady as I walked in, but my heart was pounding in my ears. I slid into the seat across from her. She didn't look up right away. But when she did, her smile was polite. "Can I help you?" My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. "I think we need to talk." Her expression didn't change. But I saw it, the flicker of recognition in her eyes. She knew who I was. And she wasn't surprised. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Claire leaned back, crossing her legs as if this was a casual conversation between friends. "I was wondering when you'd show up," she murmured, her tone smooth and unbothered. My stomach dropped. You knew?" She tilted her head, her lips curving into a smirk that made my blood boil. "Of course I knew, darling." Her eyes gleamed with something I couldn't quite place. Amusement. Pity. "But the real question is, do you know everything?" She wasn't just his mistress. I thought I was ready for the truth. I wasn't. Claire wasn't just some mistress Daniel had picked up along the way. She was part of the plan. "He told me you'd figure it out eventually," Claire said, stirring her latte lazily. "But I didn't think you'd do it this fast." He told her? "He said you were smart," she continued, her voice almost admiring. "That you wouldn't be able to resist digging once the pieces didn't add up." I felt my breath hitch. "So, what are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The partner? The what?" Claire's smile sharpened. "Both." The truth hits harder than betrayal. My mind couldn't process it. "You're involved." Claire nodded, her expression cool and composed. "Daniel doesn't make mistakes," she said softly, leaning forward. "Everything he does is calculated. Including you. Including me." My stomach turned. "What the hell does that mean?" I demanded, my voice finally finding its strength. Claire's gaze met mine, and for the first time, I saw something beneath her confidence. Pity. "Did you really think you were just the wife?" she murmured. "I was part of it." Without knowing, the words hung in the air like poison. "What do you mean?" I whispered. Claire's smile faded. "He used you," she said quietly. "For years. Your name. Your accounts. Your clean record." My blood went cold. My name. My accounts. Oh my God. "He made sure everything looked legitimate," Claire continued. "But behind the scenes? You were the perfect cover." The air left my lungs. I wasn't just married to a liar. I was an accomplice. "Why are you telling me this?" I could barely breathe. My world was spinning, collapsing under the weight of a truth I couldn't escape. But one question clawed its way to the surface. "Why are you telling me this?" Claire's eyes darkened. "Because, darling," her voice dropped to a whisper. "You're in more danger than you realize." The threat I never saw coming. I froze. "Danger?" Claire's smile was gone now, replaced by a look of cold, hard reality. "Daniel isn't going to let you walk away," she said softly. "Not after everything you know." My pulse pounded in my ears. "He's already tying up loose ends." Loose ends. The words echoed in my mind. I wasn't just discovering the truth. I was becoming a liability. The clock was ticking. Claire leaned back, her expression unreadable. "You don't have much time," she murmured. "If I were you," she paused, her eyes narrowing. "I'd start thinking about an exit strategy." I wasn't safe anymore. I walked out of that cafe in a daze, my mind reeling. The truth was worse than I could have imagined. Daniel didn't just betray me. He used me. And now? He was going to make sure I didn't get in his way. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I wasn't the woman Daniel thought I was anymore. And if he was tying up loose ends, I was about to cut the strings first. I barely remember driving home after meeting Claire. The streets blurred together, headlights smearing across my vision as I replayed her words in my mind. "He used you. You're in more danger than you realize. He's tying up loose ends." The truth had settled in my bones now, cold, heavy, and impossible to shake. Daniel wasn't just cheating. He was building an empire. And I wasn't just a bystander. I was part of it. Living in a house of lies. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the weight of it all pressed down on me like a lead blanket. The house looked the same. Our house. The place where we built a life, shared laughter, and whispered promises in the dark. But now? It felt wrong. The walls felt like they were closing in. The air felt heavier, tainted by secrets I hadn't known were hiding in plain sight. When I walked inside, the silence felt different. Hollow. Like the house was holding its breath, waiting for the next lie to shatter. Playing the perfect wife. Again Daniel was in the kitchen when I walked in. "Hey, babe." His smile was easy, effortless. But now, I saw the cracks. The way his eyes flicked over me, assessing. Calculating. "How was your day?" he asked, his voice dripping with the same warmth that used to make me feel safe. But it wasn't real. Not anymore. I forced a smile, the weight of my secrets pressing down on me. "Busy," I murmured, brushing past him. "Just a lot going on at work." His gaze lingered a moment too long. "Everything okay?" I nodded, but my heart pounded in my ears. Lie. 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 Yeah. Just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was wired. My mind raced as I made my way to the bedroom, shutting the door behind me. I couldn't do this anymore. I needed answers. And I wasn't going to get them by asking Daniel. No. If I was going to take him down, I had to go straight to the source. Cracking open the secrets, the first place I checked was his study. Daniel had always been meticulous. Everything had a place, books lined up perfectly on the shelves, files organized alphabetically. But I wasn't looking for the obvious. I was looking for the things he didn't want me to find. Hidden folders. Encrypted drives. Files that didn't exist. I pulled open the bottom drawer of his desk. It was locked. Of course it was. But I wasn't leaving without answers. I grabbed a hairpin from my pocket and knelt down, my fingers trembling as I worked the lock. Click. The drawer slid open. And what I found inside stole the air from my lungs. A puzzle of lies. There were papers. Lots of them. Invoices. Wire transfers. Shell companies I didn't recognize. But it was the ledgers that caught my eye. Handwritten. Precise. Names. Dates. Transactions. And right there, on the list, my name. My heart slammed against my ribs as I traced my finger down the page. I wasn't imagining it. My accounts. My signatures. He had been using me to cover his tracks. Laundering money. My entire body went cold. How long? How long had I been part of this without knowing? The offshore accounts. I flipped through more documents, my hands shaking as I pieced together the puzzle. Cayman Islands. Switzerland. Singapore. Accounts in my name. Transfers I never approved. And each one connected to Claire's name. It hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just about Daniel and Claire. They had been using me to move money across borders, to hide their dirty dealings behind a clean, unsuspecting face. But there was something bigger. I kept digging. And that's when I found it. A folder. Labeled, Phase 3. My stomach dropped. I opened it with trembling fingers. What I saw inside made my blood run cold. Blueprints. Property deeds. Names I didn't recognize. But at the bottom of the folder was a contract. With my signature. My signature, on a deal I never signed. I blinked, trying to make sense of it. But there it was. My name. My signature. Authorizing a deal that involved millions. I hadn't signed it. But someone had. And they had forged my name. My vision blurred, my pulse pounding as the weight of it all hit me. This wasn't just fraud. This was organized crime. Money laundering. Fraud. Shell corporations. And I was the perfect scapegoat. If Daniel's empire crumbled, if the authorities ever caught on, all the evidence would point back to me. Claire's words echoed in my mind. "You're in more danger than you realize." She wasn't lying. I was the loose end. And if Daniel was tying up loose ends, I was next. But I wasn't going down without a fight. My hands clenched the papers, my mind racing. I had enough evidence to bury him. But I couldn't make a move yet. Not until I had everything. Every last piece. Because if Daniel was going to burn, I was going to light the match. The folder was still in my hands, my fingers gripping the edges so tightly that the paper crumpled beneath them. My signature. On deals I never approved. Millions moving through offshore accounts, money that had been funneled through my name, my identity, my life. And if the authorities ever came knocking, I'd be the one left holding the bag. Panic tightened its grip, my vision blurred as I stared at the pages, the words swimming in front of me. How long had this been going on? How many deals had I unknowingly signed off on? I flipped through the documents, my heart pounding harder with each discovery. Transactions dating back years. Hundreds of thousands, no, millions, transferred in and out of accounts under my name. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore. Each one neatly tied back to me. The accounts I never knew I had. I dug deeper, pulling up more folders from the hidden drawer in Daniel's office. Bank statements, wire transfers, account numbers I didn't recognize. All in my name. But there was one account that made my blood run cold. An emergency fund. A separate account, tucked away under a different alias. But this one? It was draining. A sudden withdrawal. From my escape route, $250,000. Gone. Pulled in a series of transactions over the past 3 months. Slow enough not to raise suspicion, but fast enough to vanish before I could notice. Someone was bleeding it dry. And I knew exactly who. Daniel wasn't just covering his tracks. He was preparing for something. An exit plan. One that didn't include me. My chest tightened as the pieces fell into place. He wasn't just tying up loose ends. He was getting ready to disappear. But why now? I stared at the numbers, my mind racing. Why now? Why would Daniel be pulling money out now, after all these years? Claire's warning echoed in my mind. You don't have much time. Something was happening. Something big. The realization hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just about Daniel's empire. It was collapsing. The offshore accounts. The shell companies. The money laundering. It was all unraveling. And he was cutting ties. Including me. But I wasn't the only one he was betraying. I kept digging. And that's when I saw it. The names. The investors. We weren't talking about small-time criminals. Politicians. CEOs. High-profile names. They had all poured money into Daniel's network. And if they found out what he was doing, they wouldn't just come after him. They'd come after me. This wasn't just about getting caught. This was about staying alive. My pulse pounded in my ears as I pieced it all together. Daniel wasn't just disappearing. He was running for his life. The emails that confirmed it. I opened his laptop, my fingers moving quickly over the keys. If Daniel was planning his escape, I knew he wouldn't leave a digital trail. But he'd underestimated me. I knew his habits. Knew how he thought. And I knew where to look. Buried in his encrypted email folder was a message that confirmed my worst fears. Subject, final preparations, departure confirmed. From, Jonathan West to, Claire Mitchell, funds have been secured. Final transfer scheduled in 48 hours. No loose ends. No loose ends. The words sliced through me like a knife. 48 hours. That's how long I had. 48 hours before he disappeared for good. With Claire. With the money. And with me left to take the fall. I couldn't let that happen. I didn't know what scared me more, the thought of Daniel vanishing and leaving me to take the fall, or the possibility that if I tried to stop him, he'd come after me. Because if Daniel was tying up loose ends, I was at the top of his list. But I was done being his pawn. I wasn't going to wait for Daniel to make the first move. If he was preparing for his escape, I was going to beat him to it. I needed leverage. I went back to the documents, scanning them for anything that could give me an advantage. And then I found it. A list of accounts, names and numbers I didn't recognize. But one name stood out. Vincent DeLuca. My blood ran cold. The Vincent DeLuca. Crime boss. Ruthless. Untouchable. And Daniel was in bed with him. The power I didn't know I had. I didn't need to confront Daniel. Not yet. I had something far more valuable. Leverage. If Daniel was working with DeLuca, I had a bargaining chip that could destroy him. But it came with a price. If I played this wrong, I wouldn't make it out alive. 48 hours. That's how long I had to figure out how to take down my husband, before he took me down first. Time doesn't move the same when you're counting down your life. 48 hours. That's all I had. Every tick of the clock felt louder, echoing in my chest, vibrating through my bones. Daniel moved through the house like nothing had changed. Like he wasn't planning to vanish. Like he wasn't about to erase me. But I knew. And I was done pretending. The silence that screamed the morning of the confrontation was quiet. Too quiet. I watched him from across the breakfast table, my coffee untouched as he scrolled through his phone. Busy day? I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady. His eyes flicked up to mine, and for a split second, I saw it. The calculation. The hesitation. But then the mask slipped back into place. Same as always. His smile was too easy. Too perfect. You know how it is. Lie. I swallowed the anger that burned at the back of my throat. Not yet. I followed him again. I told him I was meeting a friend. Another lie. But I wasn't the only one hiding things. Daniel had his routine down to an art. Work. Gym. Drinks with clients. But I knew better now. And this time, I wasn't just following. I was tracking him. He led me right to the truth. It wasn't a restaurant this time. It was a warehouse. Abandoned. Quiet. But not empty. I parked a safe distance away, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I didn't want to go inside. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back. But if I was going to end this, I had to know everything. What I saw changed everything. I slipped in through a side entrance, staying close to the shadows. My pulse pounded in my ears as I crept down the narrow hallway, the dim light barely illuminating the space. And then I heard it. Voices. Daniel's voice. And another. Vincent DeLuca. My stomach twisted. I peered through the crack in the door, my breath caught in my throat. Is everything ready? Daniel stood there, his back to me, his posture relaxed, but I knew better now. It was a mask. Final transfers scheduled for tomorrow, Daniel said, his voice smooth, confident. DeLuca's silhouette loomed over him, his presence suffocating. Good, DeLuca murmured, his tone laced with menace. I don't like loose ends, Daniel. My blood ran cold. Loose ends. What about her? DeLuca's next words made my heart stop. What about your wife? I saw the shift in Daniel's shoulders. The brief hesitation. He hadn't told DeLuca. She's not a problem, Daniel said, his voice too calm. Too controlled. But DeLuca wasn't convinced. She knows too much, he said softly. And if she talks, if I talk. My breath caught in my throat. Daniel's answer was quiet. She won't. A promise. Or a death sentence. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened, the air in the room growing heavier with each passing second. Daniel wasn't just leaving me. He was planning to silence me. Permanently. I stumbled back, my vision blurring as panic gripped me. This was bigger than I thought. And I was running out of time. But I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I took out my phone, my hands trembling as I hit record. Every word. Every threat. All of it. I had what I needed. But getting out of there without being seen? That was a different problem. I barely made it out. I slipped back out the way I came, my footsteps too loud in the suffocating silence. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would give me away. But I made it. Barely. I didn't stop running until I was back in my car, the weight of what I'd just heard pressing down on me like a vice. I had proof now. But it wouldn't matter if I didn't make it out alive. And I was running out of options. I had 24 hours left. 24 hours before Daniel vanished. 24 hours before I became just another loose end. But I wasn't going to wait for him to come for me. If Daniel was going to make a move, I was going to beat him to it. I had one shot. One chance to take him down. But I needed help. And there was only one person who could help me now. Claire. I hated her. But she knew the game. And I needed an insider to beat Daniel at his own game. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking as I dialed her number. She answered on the first ring. Well, she purred. I was wondering when you'd call. My throat tightened. I'm ready, I whispered. A pause. Are you sure? No. But I didn't have a choice. Yeah, I breathed. Let's finish this. But I knew one thing for sure. Only one of us was making it out of this alive. And I was determined as hell that it was going to be me. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? 24 hours. That's how long I had before Daniel disappeared. And if I didn't stop him, I wouldn't survive. The weight of everything I had uncovered sat heavy on my chest, suffocating me. Money laundering. Fraud. Deals with Vincent DeLuca. But it was the conversation I had overheard, the one where Daniel promised DeLuca I wasn't a problem, that echoed the loudest. Because I was a problem now. And Daniel wasn't going to let me walk away. Claire was my only way out as much as I hated her. I needed her. She was the only one who knew Daniel's world as well as he did. And if I was going to bring him down, I couldn't do it alone. Meeting in the shadows, we met that night in the one place where no one would look for us. The warehouse. The same place I had followed Daniel to. The same place where I had overheard him planning my disappearance. Nice choice, Claire murmured, her heels echoing on the concrete as she stepped out of the shadows. I felt the chill run down my spine. Even now, standing in front of her, I couldn't trust her. But I didn't have a choice. Why are you helping me? It was the question that had been clawing at me since I dialed her number. Why are you helping me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Claire tilted her head, her lips curving into that same knowing smile that made my skin crawl. Because, darling, her eyes gleamed in the dim light. Daniel doesn't get to win. Her words dripped with venom. And for the first time, I believed her. Claire's plan was ruthless. Set a trap. Draw Daniel in. Get everything on record. And then? I asked, my throat tight. Claire's smile sharpened. Then we burn him to the ground. Luring him in the hardest part was making sure Daniel didn't suspect anything. But I had spent years perfecting the role of the dutiful wife. I played it one last time. Dinner? I asked sweetly that night, placing a hand gently on his chest as he walked in. His eyes softened. Tonight? Yeah, I murmured, forcing a smile. Just the two of us. He hesitated. But he couldn't resist the bait. All right, he murmured, brushing his lips against mine. Let's do dinner. But this wasn't just dinner. Claire had booked the restaurant. A private room. No interruptions. And a recording device hidden beneath the table. We weren't just having dinner. We were setting a trap. The calm before the storm. I sat across from Daniel that night, my hands steady, my face a mask of calm. But inside, I was a hurricane. Everything okay? Daniel asked, his voice smooth, but his eyes, they were watching me. Calculating. Of course, I murmured, smiling softly. But I felt the weight of the recorder beneath the table. Every word mattered now. And then I dropped the bomb. I waited until dessert. Until his guard was down. Until he leaned back in his chair, wine glass in hand, his smile just a little too confident. And that's when I said it. I know everything, Daniel. The glass froze halfway to his lips. Silence. For a moment, the world stopped. His eyes met mine. Cold. Calculating. But I saw it, the brief flicker of panic. What, exactly do you know? His voice was calm. Too calm. I know about the offshore accounts. My voice was steady, but my heart was pounding in my ears. The money. The shell companies. The fake signatures. My name. Daniel's expression didn't change, but his jaw clenched. I had his attention now. And I know about DeLuca. His face paled. Gotcha. The moment he realized he was cornered, Daniel set the glass down slowly, his fingers tightening around the stem. You don't know what you're talking about. Lie. I leaned forward, my voice barely above a whisper. Then tell me, Daniel, why did you promise DeLuca that I wouldn't be a problem? Silence. The trap was closing. His mask slipped. Just for a moment. But it was enough. Enough to catch it all on tape. Is that what this is about? His voice was lower now, more dangerous. You've been snooping through my things? I didn't answer. Because I didn't need to. What's your plan, Daniel? Disappear? I asked softly. Run off with Claire and leave me to take the fall? His lips pressed into a thin line. You don't understand. Then make me understand. He was unraveling. And I was ready to pull the final thread. You can't stop this. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes dark and cold. You think you can stop this, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. His hand brushed against mine, but there was no warmth this time. By the time anyone realizes what's happened, I'll be gone. Gone. But I wasn't letting him walk away. Not this time. I pulled back, my voice stronger than I felt. You don't get to disappear, Daniel. Why not? His smile was sharp. Because I have everything. The bombshell. His smile faded. He knew. I saw the exact moment he realized I had him cornered. The transfer. The emails. The call with DeLuca. I leaned closer, my voice a whisper. All of it. Checkmate. The air grew heavier between us. His jaw clenched. His mind was racing, searching for a way out. But there wasn't one. Not this time. And then he said the one thing that made my blood run cold. Do you really think this ends with me? What the hell did that mean? My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Daniel's smile returned, but it was different this time. Darker. Even if you take me down, he leaned back, his eyes gleaming with something I couldn't place. You'll never stop them. Them. My blood ran cold. There was someone bigger. Someone pulling the strings behind Daniel. And I had just poked the hornet's nest. But it was too late to back down. I'd come too far. There was no turning back now. We'll see about that. My voice was calm. But inside? I was terrified. The game wasn't over. I had backed Daniel into a corner. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. Checkmate. That's what I thought. Sitting across from Daniel in that dimly lit restaurant, his face pale, his confidence unraveling. I thought I had one. But I was wrong. Because the thing about illusions? They shatter. And when they do, they leave nothing but wreckage. The fall was faster than I expected. It didn't take long. Once I had the recordings, the documents, the proof of everything Daniel had done. His world began to collapse. The offshore accounts? Frozen. The shell companies? Exposed. Claire? Gone. She vanished the moment the walls started closing in, leaving Daniel to face the fallout alone. Typical. But I wasn't surprised. And Daniel? He wasn't as composed as he pretended to be. The man who had built an empire with lies and manipulation? He was unraveling. His lawyers scrambled to clean up the mess. But there was too much to hide. Too much evidence. I had made sure of that. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because even as Daniel's world fell apart, mine wasn't safe. The call that changed everything. It came 2 days after I leaked the documents. Late at night. The house was quiet, but I couldn't sleep. Too much noise in my head. When the phone buzzed, I almost ignored it. But something told me to answer. We need to talk. The voice on the other end was calm. Too calm. Vincent DeLuca. My blood ran cold. How the hell did he get my number? Mrs. Carter, he said smoothly, his voice like silk over steel. I think you and I have some unfinished business. I don't have business with you. I tried to keep my voice steady. But I wasn't fooling anyone. DeLuca chuckled softly. No? His tone was almost amused. Then why do I have a very interesting set of documents with your name all over them? My heart stopped. The contracts. The offshore accounts. The ones Daniel forged using my name. That wasn't me. It doesn't matter who signed them, Mrs. Carter. His voice dropped, and the temperature in the room seemed to plummet with it. What matters is that someone has to answer for it. Oh God. Daniel set me up. I could hear the smile in DeLuca's voice. Of course he did. He was enjoying this. But here's the thing, a pause. A beat too long. My skin crawled. Daniel's no longer useful to me. My stomach dropped. Which means I need a new investment. His words were soft. But the threat behind them? It was razor sharp. And lucky for you, Mrs. Carter, you're still on the hook. My blood went cold. I'm not part of this, I whispered, my throat tightening. Ah, his sigh was almost sympathetic. But your name is. And that was all that mattered. So here's what happens next. My pulse pounded in my ears as DeLuca's tone shifted. Darker. Either we come to an arrangement, he let the words hang in the air, suffocating me. Or, the silence that followed was louder than any threat. I didn't need him to say it. I knew exactly what it meant. Daniel was just the beginning. My mind raced, panic clawing at my chest. I had destroyed Daniel's empire. But in doing so, I had exposed something bigger. Much bigger. And now? I was standing in the crosshairs. I needed a way out. Fine. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Let's talk. Because I needed time. And buying time was the only chance I had. But DeLuca wasn't stupid. Smart choice, he murmured. But don't take too long, Mrs. Carter. His voice dropped, his next words chilling me to the bone. Because I'm not nearly as patient as your husband. Click. The line went dead. And just like that, the illusion shattered. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The clock was ticking. Again. I had destroyed Daniel. But now, I had to survive DeLuca. And I was running out of time. My hands trembled as I set the phone down, my mind racing. I wasn't safe. Not yet. If I was going to make it out of this alive, I needed a new plan. Because this game was far from over. And the next move? It was mine. Silence is heavier when it's filled with secrets. It wraps around you, tight and suffocating, pressing against your chest until breathing feels impossible. And I was drowning in it. The weight of everything I had done, everything I had uncovered, pulled me deeper. But I wasn't going down without a fight. DeLuca had given me 24 hours. That's all I had. To make a deal. To disappear. Or to die. Running wasn't an option. I thought about it. Packing a bag. Disappearing. But DeLuca would find me. There was no running from a man like him. And even if I could escape, I'd spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. So I did what I had to do. I called him. Mrs. Carter. His voice was smooth, but I heard the threat beneath it. Have you made a decision? I had. Let's meet. A pause. Wise choice. The final meeting, we met at an upscale lounge in the heart of the city. Public. Safe. At least, that's what I told myself. But safety is an illusion when you're sitting across from a man like Vincent DeLuca. He was already there when I arrived. Perfectly tailored suit. Impeccable posture. And those cold, calculating eyes that never missed a thing. Mrs. Carter. He gestured to the seat across from him, his smile polite. But I knew better. There was nothing polite about this meeting. Let's get to it. I didn't waste time. I have everything, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. The documents. The transfers. The evidence tying Daniel to the offshore accounts. DeLuca's expression didn't change. And I'm offering you a deal. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. You don't want the FBI looking at those accounts. His eyes darkened. Good. I can bury everything, I murmured. But I need something in return. DeLuca's smile was cold. You're bargaining with me, Mrs. Carter? His voice was smooth, but I felt the razor-sharp edge beneath it. Do you know how many people have tried to bargain with me? And how many of them survived? I swallowed hard. But I didn't back down. You don't have a choice. Let's not pretend, I said softly. You can't let this get out. I met his gaze head-on, even though my hands were trembling under the table. And if I go down, I let the words hang in the air. You go down with me. A dangerous game. For a moment, the world held its breath. DeLuca didn't speak. Didn't move. But I felt the shift. The moment he realized that I wasn't just some pawn. I was a threat. What do you want? The words were quiet. But they carried the weight of life and death. My life back. I disappear. My voice was steady now. I walk away. Clean. No ties. No threats. DeLuca's eyes narrowed. And if I say no? Then we all burn. I didn't blink. I send everything to the feds. Every single detail. The air between us was electric. This was it. The moment where everything came crashing down. DeLuca finally spoke. Fine. The word was like a knife. You get your life back, Mrs. Carter. But if I ever hear your name again, his smile didn't reach his eyes. You won't get a second chance. The deal was done. It should have felt like victory. It didn't. Because when you make a deal with the devil, there's always a price. I walked away. But not clean. DeLuca kept his word. The documents disappeared. The accounts were wiped clean. But the stain remained. The weight of the lies. The blood on my hands. Daniel was gone. But so was I. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't look back. Because that life? It wasn't mine anymore. Starting over. At a cost. I left the city. New name. New identity. A clean slate. But I wasn't naive. You don't walk away from this kind of life without scars. And then the call came. It was months later. I was living a quiet life. Trying to forget. Trying to breathe again. But the past. It never stays buried. We need to talk. My blood went cold. The voice on the other end was one I hadn't heard in months. Claire. It's not over. Her words sliced through me. You think you're safe? A bitter laugh echoed through the line. You're not. My heart stopped. Claire, what the hell are you talking about? They know you're alive. My world tilted. No. No, no, no. And they're coming. The line went dead. The silence that remains was louder than anything I had ever heard. Because this wasn't over. Not even close.